One ruling, everything changes. You don't need to imagine it, it just happened. In a stunning 9-0 decision, the U.S. Supreme Court has completely redrawn the rules for how police can use force against Americans. Not just in criminal cases, but even in civil rights lawsuits that follow. If you've ever asked, can they really get away with that? This ruling might finally change the answer. This isn't about headlines. It's about your rights, your protection, and the line between law and abuse of power. Welcome back to Survival Firearms, the channel where law, liberty, and self-defense meet reality. If you want fact-based, constitutionally grounded updates like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button and share this video. This story deserves the attention of every freedom-loving American. Let's break down what happened, what it really means, and why this decision could have more impact than Bruin or even Heller. Chapter 1. The case that started it all. It began with a civil rights lawsuit in St. Louis, Missouri. Arnold Barnes, an unarmed man, was slammed to the ground by police during a mistaken encounter. He was tackled so violently his collarbone was broken. He never posed a threat, had committed no crime, and the officers admitted it was a misunderstanding. He sued. But the lower courts threw out the case, saying that excessive force claims must fall under the Fourth Amendment, search and seizure, not the 14th Amendment due process. But here's the problem. In civil lawsuits like these, timing matters. The court claimed Barnes didn't file fast enough under the 4th, so he tried the 14th. They blocked that too. The question was simple. Can Americans still sue when the government violates their rights, even if the violation doesn't fit neatly into a box? The Supreme Court took the case, and what came next was shocking. Chapter 2. The 9-0 ruling and why it's so rare. When the justices delivered their decision, it wasn't 5-4 or 6-3. It was unanimous 9-0-0. The court ruled that when police use excessive force, citizens can sue under the Due Process Clause if a Fourth Amendment path is blocked. In plain English, if you're hurt by the government and the system won't let you seek justice one way, you're allowed to try another. Key takeaways. The ruling reaffirms that constitutional rights aren't single-use only. Multiple parts of the Constitution can protect the same act. It restores civil remedies for people injured by police in non-criminal contexts. It opens the door to more legal accountability for officers who abuse their power. This isn't a soft-on-crime decision. It's about making sure the government is still held accountable when mistakes or misconduct occur. Chapter 3. How it changes police force standards. This case wasn't about guns or deadly force. It was about something just as important. When force becomes unconstitutional even if no weapon is used. Before this ruling, many courts applied a snapshot standard, judging an officer's actions in a single moment, even if that moment came after a mistake. Now, that standard is under pressure. Legal shifts ahead. Agencies will have to revise training standards to ensure officers don't just act lawfully but constitutionally. Officers who injure someone without a clear justification could now face civil suits, even if prosecutors decline charges. Qualified immunity, long a shield against lawsuits, may become easier to challenge under broader interpretations of due process. For people who believe in limited government, this decision is a wake-up call. It means power has limits again. Chapter 4. The Firearm Connection. Why gun owners should care. You might be asking, what does this have to do with the Second Amendment? Everything. Because use of force cases often intersect with armed citizens, home defense, and stop and search encounters. Any change in how the government handles force directly affects lawful carriers. Implications for gun owners. If you're legally carrying and an officer mistakenly confronts you, this ruling could protect your right to sue if excessive force is used. It sets a precedent that force must be justified even in mistaken identity situations involving guns. The expansion of civil rights lawsuits gives everyday Americans a stronger voice when wrongfully targeted. This isn't about weakening the police, it's about balancing power so that law-abiding gun owners aren't criminalized just for exercising their rights. Chapter 5. From Ferguson to now. Why timing matters. This ruling comes after a decade of national tension over policing, accountability, and use of force. From Ferguson 2014 to Uvalde, the American public has been watching how authority is applied and where it crosses the line. This 9-0 ruling resets the framework. It signals that even a conservative majority court sees the need for guardrails on power. Why this moment matters. It affirms that government actions must be reviewable even after the fact. It creates a legal pathway for future challenges to police misconduct. It strengthens both the 4th and 14th Amendments, not just for suspects, but for citizens in every encounter. For constitutionalists, this decision is a rare win. a moment when every justice agrees that liberty isn't optional, even when it's inconvenient for the state. Chapter 6. The limits of government immunity. For decades, qualified immunity has protected law enforcement officers from personal liability, even in cases involving serious misconduct. But the 9-0 decision in this case creates new friction points in that doctrine. Qualified immunity doesn't vanish overnight, but this ruling confirms that when clear constitutional rights are violated even by mistake, the courts must provide a pathway for citizens to seek redress. Key points. The ruling doesn't eliminate qualified immunity, but it narrows how easily it can be applied to block lawsuits. It sends a message to lower courts. If your ruling leaves a citizen without any constitutional remedy, it's probably wrong. It clarifies that the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment can be used when Fourth Amendment claims are rejected. This makes it significantly harder for bad actors to hide behind procedural loopholes and opens the door to stronger accountability in civil courts. Chapter 7. Civil Rights Lawsuits Reinvigorated. Civil rights lawsuits under Section 1983 of the U.S. Code allow Americans to sue state officials who violate their constitutional rights. But over time, those lawsuits have become harder to win due to technical limitations. This ruling changes that trajectory. It reminds judges that legal remedies must be available when citizens suffer harm, regardless of which amendment they invoke. Key points. Section 1983 lawsuits now have renewed strength thanks to the expanded use of the 14th Amendment. Citizens can challenge police force, misconduct, or wrongful search under multiple constitutional paths. Courts must avoid procedural games that prevent injured parties from accessing justice. It's a reminder that rights on paper are meaningless unless they can be enforced in real life, especially when the system itself is the one causing the injury. Chapter 8. The Future of Use of Force Policies. Law enforcement agencies nationwide are now forced to revisit their use of force protocols, not just for how officers handle threats, but how they justify those actions in civil court after the fact. Training departments will be looking closely at how to prevent excessive force in ambiguous encounters, especially those that don't result in criminal charges but still cause harm. Key points. Use of force reviews will likely shift from a momentary snapshot to a broader analysis of officer conduct. Officers may need to more thoroughly document their decision-making, even in non-lethal engagements. Public defenders and civil attorneys will begin citing this ruling in lawsuits across the country. This legal shift will quietly but significantly reshape law enforcement culture, forcing departments to prioritize constitutional boundaries, not just departmental policy. Chapter 9. What this means for self-defense cases. The Supreme Court's ruling has indirect but serious implications for citizens involved in defensive gun use. In many jurisdictions, lawful self-defense can still trigger police encounters, detainments, or even arrests. Now, if an innocent carrier is wrongfully injured or targeted by excessive force, this ruling improves their chances of winning in court. Key points. If you are a lawful concealed carrier and an officer uses unjustified force, you now have more avenues to hold them accountable. Civil courts can no longer reject your claims simply because they don't fall under a narrow constitutional rule. Defensive gun use encounters will likely be reevaluated through this updated legal lens. This is especially important in states where Second Amendment rights are often treated with suspicion. It gives carriers more legal armor, not just against criminals, but against overreach. Chapter 10. The balance of power has shifted. Make no mistake, this case isn't just about one man or one set of officers. It's about the boundaries of authority, and the Supreme Court just redrew them. By uniting all 9 justices, the court sent a rare and unmistakable message. No part of the Constitution should block justice when harm is clear. Citizens are not second-class participants in their own system. Key takeaways. It affirms the concept of layered constitutional protection. One amendment failing doesn't end the conversation. It marks a national rebalancing moment. Power has limits again, even for law enforcement. It provides a blueprint for future challenges to unconstitutional force, detention, and harassment. The next time someone says, the courts always side with the state, you can point to Barnes versus Thomas as the case that finally proved otherwise. Why this matters now more than ever. For years, we've covered the push and pull between freedom and force, between your rights and the rules used to suppress them. This case may not have involved a firearm directly, but it absolutely affects everyone who carries one. Because when the rules change for law enforcement, they change for all of us. At Survival Firearms, we believe in more than just gear. We believe in understanding the law that governs that gear and how to protect yourself within it. Subscribe if you haven't already. Share this video with someone who thinks rights are earned instead of guaranteed. And stay sharp, because this fight isn't over. The Constitution just got stronger, but only if we use it.